Okay, today we have Ben Sola here to talk to us about his experience with the Spring Technique First program. Ben, what led to your interest in this program?
So I've always liked running. I ran when I was a kid, and I just really enjoy running with people. But over the last few years, children, workers, everything has just got in the way, and there's always been a reason and an excuse not to run. So lockdown came and went, and I promised myself, like lots of people, I'd get fit, and then I didn't. So I started looking around in the spring for local running clubs, found the Cheltenham Running Club website, had a conversation with you, really liked what you were saying, really got that impression that you understood what I needed. So joined the running club, and from there, just wait for the wind, but from there, just conversations about how you can improve and get through, improve the joy of running and just make things better. So I was interested in improving my technique, and it came from there, really.
Yeah, good, because you've had some issues with injury in the past.
Yeah.
Was that a driving force behind starting the program?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 40 odd now, 40 something. It's a lot easier to get injured and a lot harder to get through them. So there was a real concern that if I started to go running on my own or just do it, I've got a history of just running till my lungs burst. And that's fine when you're 15, fine when you're 20, and it's okay when you're probably in your 30s, but when you get to your 40s, your lungs might keep up, but your legs start to creak and hurt and bits start to niggle. And so it just made sense to learn and actually train my body how to run in a way that didn't hurt. And when you pick up an injury, it's really, really disheartening because you can't do that thing you've just started enjoying. So it made sense to learn how to run properly to avoid the injuries. So it's easier to run, but it's also easier to keep going if you do it right.
Yeah. And what did you think of the assessment side of the program, showing up and having to run towards and side on to a camera?
Interesting, illuminating, humbling. I mean, I can run. Who doesn't run? I mean, as kids, you run. But then you actually record it and slow it down and look at it and you think, I'm not running very well. I mean, I'm running, but what I found really useful was where you'd stop the video, rewind it, look at things like heel strike, knee lift, terms that I'd never heard about. And I'm now suddenly analysing my own running. So I now consciously think about how I'm positioning my hips, how I'm moving my legs through, where I'm striking the ground with my feet. And all of this at the moment, you move from that sort of consciously conscious about something. I will get to the unconsciously conscious bit, I know I will, but it takes time to actively break down the mistakes you've baked into your running, the bad technique. We can all run. I mean, actually, we all run pretty badly. Do you know what's really interesting? I drive down the road, see people running with my car, and I'm now assessing them. From all the videos I've seen and all the stuff that you've done through, as I say, how my arms are, how my knees. I walk through and go, his arms aren't parallel. She's crossing her feet, and I'm assessing other people, which is brilliant because now I can assess myself. Yeah. I found it really, really illuminating.
And as you say, you are trying to override years and years of the same technique which is baked in. So the more things that get you thinking about your technique and about technique in general, the better it's going to be at slowly bringing on the change of habits.
Yeah.
How did you find the technique drills that we did?
It's funny because it's so alien at first to break down a running stride into various components. And there are times when it feels like Monty Python's, silly walks, and you're doing things that feel strange. But then you knit it all together and suddenly it feels logical and sensible. And so you break the things down. You have to overcome all that. If somebody said, just run to me, you'd run. If somebody said, focus on lifting your knee, focus on driving your leg through, focus on how you're placing your foot on the ground, breaking it down into steps and doing those over and over again means that when you do knit it together, it makes sense. So yeah, I mean, it feels slightly strange to be marching up and down a field, but put it into running and suddenly you consciously feel it getting better. So yeah, I found it really, really helpful to break it down into those steps. And build it up. And again, it's when you're learning and undoing all that hard wiring, you can only really focus on one thing at a time. So you can focus on your arms, or you can focus on your knee. But knowing what you're focusing on helps you to really nail that bit, and then you move that into the unconscious competent bit. and then you get better with the next bit. So yeah, it's really helpful, I think, to break it into bits.
Absolutely. Just as you say, isolating what am I actually working on. Is my posture right? My arms right? And doing that with drills. The drills are low impact relative to running, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to focus on all these techniques while you're running, things happen a lot faster than they do with the drills, and the impact is a lot higher. So the drills really give you an opportunity to, as you say, isolate things in a low impact environment, but also it's quite fatiguing, isn't it?
It is, it's tiring, you're building up, you're working muscles you never, because you've got a bad technique, those muscles aren't getting worked. And then you build the right technique in and they start to complain. But the other bit I think about breaking it down into steps is that when you try and improve technique, it's like patting your head whilst rubbing your stomach, whilst also reciting French backwards, whilst also doing this in the dark. Trying to do it all at once is an impossibility. So you have to break it down, and when you start with patting your head, and you start then adding in rubbing your stomach, and then you make the lights go out, and then you move on to the complex bits. Trying to do it all in one go, you'd have people, you wouldn't know what you were getting wrong because everything was wrong. So you've got to do it step by step, I think. And it's a really helpful way of doing it. Another bit which I really enjoyed is, you're not doing it on your own. So when I say it feels a bit silly marching up and down, well, it does, but you're doing it with 5 or 6 other people who all are doing it. Yeah. And so, there's a sense of camaraderie and, at times humour, because it feels a bit silly.
Yeah, but you can laugh at each other, laugh at yourselves, and it doesn't matter who's looking. The park's generally pretty quiet. But I want to sort of touch back on that, what you said about the conditioning side of it, and just taking your joints and muscles through. It's a lot of the muscles are the same as what you're running with, but you're just using them in a different way, taking them through a different range of motion, aren't you? Yeah. The knee lift is much higher doing a high knee march than what it would be if you're going out for a run, but that conditions the hip flexors to lift the knees up higher, so they are better at doing that. And I think one of the biggest challenges people have when it comes to being able to run faster is that they're not conditioned to pick their knees up, to pick their heels up. They are conditioned to run with the same knee lift, the same heel lift, and therefore their stride doesn't increase, and they don't have the conditioning to do it. And I know that a lot of the members did get some soreness after sessions, didn't they?
Well, you do get, you're doing it in a different way. And other things like, it's amazing how asymmetric all of us are. You don't notice it until you physically, consciously look at it. And then my left arm wants to go out, my right arm will go straight. So you build this in. And the other bit about the soreness is, you associate the soreness sometimes with, right, if I do it this way and it hurts a bit, I know I'm physically doing it the right way. I'm realigning the muscles that have been used to being lazy or doing it the wrong way to the right way. So actually the soreness sometimes I found was actually a useful hint to the fact I'm doing the technique the right way now. Yeah. And then as you get better and as you get strengthen up and get used to it, the soreness goes away, but the good technique stays.
It's just muscle soreness at the end of the day. It's the same as if you go to the gym and do a workout. It's the same type of muscle soreness. It's just muscles that haven't been used in that way, for that length of time. So, as you say, it strengthens things up. It is required, really, as part of the process. So, how about when we then move from the drills work into the running? You actually get to run, but then thinking about what we've been doing in the drills. How was that for you?
I mean, so I'll look to the camera now and say, Conor knows I'm an idiot sometimes when it comes to running. So the hardest bit is to give yourself the pace to do it properly and to not just go hell for leather, because you're really excited, you've got all this new technique to do and you just want to go out the block, and you've got to kind of rein it in, slow it down. I found that actually, I know some people found their technique was better when they started off, and then you'd run a length of the pitch and their technique would get worse as it went. Other people I found personally that my technique got better the longer I was doing it, so I'd start and it would be a bit creaky, then I'd relax into it. So by the end of, say, the length of a football pitch, I'm comfortable. But also the interesting bit is you run slow, and then you find that when you speed up, you know how to speed up. So it's not about kicking your foot further forward. It's not about trying to, take smaller strides, longer strides, whatever. The technique holds, and you follow the technique. You lean into it. You keep your legs coming up. You keep your heel coming back, driving your legs forward, and you run faster with less effort, and it's more comfortable, and it's not going to injure you. So the actual building it together and getting into the running, I really, really enjoyed. But I go back to, you couldn't have done it without breaking it down into the component parts, because, off you go, run better. If it was as easy as run better, we wouldn't all have problems.
No, that's right. That's right. Now we know that speed has never been a challenge for you. Over a short distance, you're very quick. But what about efficiency? How do you feel, when you were doing longer runs and you were out, you weren't able to just gun it because your lungs would blow up?
Yeah.
When you were forced to slow down and then thinking about the technique, what was that like?
It was frustrating at first because I just wanted to chase people. There were a couple of guys. There's a guy who I was doing it with who was, 50% taller than me, and that meant he had 50% longer legs, and I wanted to chase him. But I couldn't. But the thing is that actually it wasn't about the competition or the chase, and it never really was. It was about the enjoyment. And so the technique and the efficiency, I'm suddenly finding I'm going faster around a track or faster around a field for no more effort and for actually much less in risk of injury, because the technique's right, the efficiency right, my legs are keeping up with my lungs are keeping up with my legs, everything's working much more in harmony. My arms are driving my legs are working better, so it's much better.
Yeah. So what would you say to someone who's maybe thinking about jumping into the next program?
I'd say do it. I'd say really, if anybody's sort of looking at doing a technique program with you, do it. Because you can train hard or you can train smart. You can run hard, you can go out for longer runs, you can try and go faster. But if you're doing it the wrong way, it's not only wasted effort, you're not going to enjoy it as much, and you're going to risk the injury, and you're going to frustrate yourself. If you do the technique stuff, as I say, you'll be looking at people when you're driving along, watching their technique, analysing what they're doing, all the time, consciously, subconsciously, whatever it is, building into your mind the good techniques. When you go out for your next run, you take a moment as you're running to reset your hips, reset your arms, and suddenly you find that everything is becoming easier again. So if anybody's got if anybody wants to run and enjoy it more and injure themselves less and find that they can go longer or faster or both, it's a no-brainer, you do it.
Yeah, nice. I just want to take this opportunity to explain the whole concept behind the name of technique first. As you can imagine, it's really just about improving your technique, but ideally prioritizing your technique for all of your runs. So you're not just focusing on running faster when you go out for a run, whether it be a race or a training run. You are prioritizing your technique first, because if you're running faster or further with bad technique, you're sacrificing your technique to get a faster time, then you are effectively increasing your risk of injury, you're decreasing your efficiency, and you're just hammering home those bad habits that you've already been developing for years. Whereas if you flip that on its head and actually prioritize first your posture when you're running, how your arms are moving, if you've learned how to use your arms and your legs together to run, and you keep the intensity at a level that enables you to focus on that, then you are going to improve your running technique as a higher priority than your speed. And the speed will come once you've consolidated the technique changes. Then you've just completely increased the potential of your ability to run faster and further with less risk of injury, because your technique is more efficient and you know how to run faster when you want to. So obviously this is a massive plug for the Technique First program. Thank you for watching. Ben, anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
I would just have a plug for the club as well. I quite enjoy running on my own, but I enjoy running with people. And actually there is a real joy in being around people who share what you're doing, but there's no competition. Everybody's supportive, everybody enjoys running and is there to do it in a collegiate, collaborative effort. So as well as doing the technique stuff, there is a real joy of just sharing something you enjoy with other people who enjoy it. So I'd say great. I mean, if people are thinking about joining the club, join the club. Go running together. It's much more fun, especially on a day like this.
Yeah, you can suffer in the heat.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for watching. See you soon.